Let's talk about some friggin' booktubers. Hey guys, my name is Trinity. If you have been around for any amount of time, you will know that I don't shout out very many booktubers, but I saw T do this and I will tag him in this. He also tagged the original creators and everything like that, so go check out his video. He talked about a lot of booktubers that I really love, I follow, but I want to talk about the 15 booktubers that I watch religiously. I love sharing the booktube love, and if you recognized my intro, I have to shout out the first booktuber that made me watch booktube, and that is Joshana. And her intros are always, let's talk about some friggin' books. And I have followed her for years. I love her recommendations. I can't say that we have the exact same taste in books, but both of us are really honest in our reviews. Like, if we love a book, we love a book, and we shout about it for as long as anyone will listen. And if we don't like a book, we tell you why. And so I kind of modeled what I wanted to do around what Joshana has done. And that is also why my intros used to be, if you're here, you must be here to talk about books, because that's why I'm here. And so I do have to shout out Joshana because she is the one that actually made me start watching booktube in the first place. Didn't know it really existed up until I found her channel, and then I kind of rabbit trailed from there. Since then, there is one that I'm also a Patreon of, so I have to give him a huge shout out, and that would be Andrew's Wizardly Reads. Now, I have followed Andrew probably since inception of his channel, and I didn't realize that he actually hasn't been on booktube as long as I have. And so I found that kind of funny, but I did the no longer a booktube newbie tag, and he's like, oh, well, I never did a newbie tag. And I'm like, oh, wait, how old is your channel? Because he is like a pro. He went into this kind of just gung-ho going after it and succeeding. And I'm so happy for him that he is now like getting up there with some of the bigger booktubers in follows and subscriptions and Patreon peoples. But I love his self-pub recommendations. And for the longest time, it was kind of a back and forth of self-pub recommendations between the two of us, but now he reads a whole lot more than I do. So I have a tendency to go to him whenever I'm looking for self-pub recommendations. And like I said, I watch him just about as religiously as I do Joshana. So now for the rest of these, I do have to say that I don't watch a whole lot of booktube. I barely have time to sit down and record my own booktube videos, let alone watch everybody else's. But there are certain people that when they upload, I'm like, yep, gotta watch that one, yep, gotta watch that one, yep, gotta watch that one. And, you know, I know what to avoid to stop myself from going down the booktube rabbit hole too bad. Like, I don't watch interviews and stuff like that unless it's someone I absolutely love or someone I'm really interested in learning more about, those kinds of things. Like, I don't really watch the interviews, and I don't really watch live shows. I don't really have time to like set aside this chunk of time, and I don't do reading sprints, which you guys have probably figured that out by the content of my own YouTube channel. But other than that, I watch every video that these people put out, and I just have to say that I love all of these, and I hope you follow all of these. And I'm gonna go through most of them pretty fast, so we're not here forever because we are talking about 15 booktubers. Well, 13 now that I've mentioned my like top 2 that I always watch. But we also have Leslie from The Nerdy Narrative. Now, I love watching her because she reads across the board like I do. And I know that I can find horror, sci-fi, fantasy, literary, all kinds of stuff, all kinds of recommendations from her. And we don't exactly have the same reading taste, but a lot of what we do like in books align. And so even if like the book she's recommending in her videos isn't a 5-star for me, I'm probably still going to enjoy it. So I do love watching her for that reason, because again, it's so hard to find booktubers who aren't niche, who kind of just read across the board. It's another reason that I love Joshana in the first place, because she also kind of reads across the board. All of us are fantasy readers, all of us, but we do like to dabble in other genres as well. And then Usman from Bards and Books, Grimdark. I am a huge Grimdark fan, and Usman is a huge Grimdark fan, and recently we've been figuring out that our tastes are pretty similar. Like, we like a lot of the same things. And there's a book that I read a long time ago. Well, I say a long time ago, a few years ago, whenever it released, that he read, and I was like, oh my gosh, I've been trying to get people to read this. And he was like, it was great, wasn't it? And I was like, it is great. And so that was kind of fun. But grimdark recommendations, if you're looking for those, Usman is definitely one to follow. And then, of course, my love of romantasy, I have to shout out Becca and the Books, because I'm about to play Spookopoly next month. That is her readathon. It's usually Bookopoly, but because we're doing it in October, it is Spookopoly, and I love it. I love it. We do not have the same reading taste, not at all, but she gives great romantasy recommendations, and I have a tendency to like the ones that she recommends, basically because whenever I'm looking for romance, I want that character-focused romance, because it's so hard to get attached to a romance when you're not attached to the characters. I feel like it works better for me in romance than it does in any other way. And so her recommendations really work for me for romantasy. Now, fantasy, we don't agree. Not at all. I'm not going to read Wheel of Time. I love Live Ship, but the rest of like the Fitz stuff, I don't want to. And I know that she is working on Wheel of Time, and she is, or has finished, I believe, has now finished Realm of the Elderlings. But, you know, like, just that's not my taste in actual fantasy, but in romantasy, 100%, 100%. I highly recommend Becca and the Books, because she gives great recommendations for that. And then the OG, I feel like, G from Book Roast. I love watching her videos, and I have to say that I can't tell you whether or not our tastes align, because there are some that we agree on, some that we don't. I love the aesthetic of her videos though, and I love listening to her talk, and I will watch just because I love her voice, and I really like that she has put together this huge readathon that spans multiple months, spans like the year, and is very set up, like, it took so much. I think it's, oh Lord, I have forgot the name of this readathon. Somebody in the comments help me out. I know you guys know what it is, because it is such a popular readathon, and it's basically leveling up based on like almost a D&D style training school setting. And I just think it's so cool. It is so cool. Books with Emily Fox. Emily is very much a feminist and I love watching her videos because she gives really good sci-fi recommendations that are female-centered and not horrific to read based on a female standpoint. And so I love getting into her videos because she really dissects the books. She really gets into them, gets to the meat of the story, gets to the problems of the story as well, and kind of points out what things could be triggering to other people. And, you know, she'll write off a book if it's too sexist or anything like that. So there are some books that we don't agree on. Obviously, I love Lightbringer. So, but again, I really love her sci-fi recommendations, and I want to get into more of the books that she's recommended specifically because I feel like I will really enjoy them. And she does have a tendency to like more plot-driven stuff or thematic stuff. So I have a feeling that when I do get to the recommendations that she has given, I'm going to enjoy them, like I said. Now, I have to give a shout out to one of my friends and a longtime supporter of this channel, Nala. She just started her channel not too long ago. And if you are into young adult, then her channel is the channel to follow because she gives great young adult recommendations and she loves mystery thrillers. So if you guys are into mystery thrillers or young adult, go follow Nala because I think that her young adult recommendations, like I said, are fantastic. She's such a sweet person. So like the tone of her videos, like you can feel just how much of a genuine person that she is, and I love that about her. Next, I have to give a shout out to one who kind of ranks up there with Jashana, but some books we just don't agree on. However, she loves Orbit just like I do, and that would be Holly Hart's books. Holly really, again, kind of reads a lot of fantasy. Like, it doesn't matter the subgenre, it seems like, but I always get great recommendations from her. You guys know I have an obsession with like David Dalglish, like buying the books, not necessarily reading them, and she loves David Dalglish. And I like every time I watch one of her videos, I find something new to read. Every single time I watch one of her videos, I'm like, oh, adding to the TBR. Oh, adding to the TBR. But again, another Orbit fangirly. So there are a few of us who really just love a particular publisher. And it's very easy to see based on our shelves who we prefer. A little bit harder on this one because you guys can't actually see that third shelf that has all the oh, there we go. There we go. Has all of the Orbit logos on them. And then I have to shout out Into the Heart Wild because I do feel like she gives some great recommendations. Our tastes do often align. She doesn't like Anthony Ryan though. How dare, how dare. No, we've talked about this. We've talked about this. I'm totally okay with people not liking what I like. And you know, I'm never offended. I'm never offended. I may act offended. I might be like, sure, Dan, but I'm never really offended. And like, but our tastes are very similar, very, very similar. We do read very different things though. So every time I watch a video, just like with Holly, I find something new. I find something I probably haven't heard of before. And I always enjoy that about her channel because so often, Booktube is full of the same, a lot of the same. And if you're looking for outside the box recommendations, I mean, follow me for sure, but follow her too, because there are so many books that she talks about that I'm just like, I've never even heard of that book. Now it's added to my list. All right, and then I got to give a shout out to Leanne's Library because there is one thing that we have in common. One thing. Do we agree on all books? Absolutely not. Writing is really important to both of us. So I will watch her videos to see what she has to say about particular authors' writing styles, because I know if she didn't like it, I'm probably not going to like it either. Now, there are some that obviously we don't agree on. There are some I think are great writing. She doesn't think are great writing. There are some she thinks is great writing that I don't think is great writing. I have had The Wolf on my TBR cart this entire year because of her. I need to get them, but I bought all three because of her. And I have a tendency to watch all of her videos because she only uploads on Saturdays, I do believe. And so every time one comes up, I'm like, oh, I need to watch this. Oh, I need to watch this. And writing style is very important to both of us. And I'm sure you guys have learned that over the course of the 3 years I have been on BookTube, that there's a lot I can forgive. Writing style is not one of them. Eloquent writing, you got to do a lot to impress me writing style wise. So, and I'm really honest about it too. So I'm not going to slip one in there and be like, oh, this is great whenever I don't really believe that. And neither is Leanne. She's not going to let you get away with it either. The obvious shout out that to come next is Patrick. I have followed Patrick for years. I want to say 10 years or so as a blogger. I followed him before he even started his YouTube channel. We kind of came up at the same time in the blogosphere, and then I went away. I had like a little bit of a book burnout and just went away. And then I came back and Patrick had blown up to this insane blogger, and we were talking about starting a YouTube channel at the same time. And so we started talking about that. But again, grimdark fantasy. If you are a fan of grimdark fantasy, you should be following Patrick. If you are a fan of self-pub fantasy, you should be following Patrick. He is huge. I don't feel like he needs this shout out from me, you know, my 550 versus his like million followers. But I do think he gives great recommendations, and he talks really in depth about the books that he reads. So while I may not talk in depth, I might give you the whole vibes of the book and tell you enough to let you know if it's for you or not. He really delves into them and explains why he feels a certain way, and he really fleshes out his reviews of books. And I really appreciate that, because not that I want to give surface level recommendations or surface level reviews. I don't think that way. So all of the details of a lot of the stories that I read kind of go to the wayside. I retain the meat of it. But a lot of the details that he talks about, like, those have left my brain once I read them. So I'm not able to put together the detailed reviews that he does. And I do think that they're excellent. Next, again, we're going to go the romantasy route to a booktuber who also kind of reads across the board, and that would be Riley Marie. Now, this is one I found about the same time I found Shoshana and a couple of others, but we have very similar reading tastes. I've learned this. She loves horror, and romance. And, you know, it's very across the board. And we seem like very sweet, pleasant people, but there's a darkness in both of us. And I can tell you this because it's one of like one recognizing the other. She likes dark books too. And like I said, horror, but I really like her recommendations. If she likes a book, there's a good chance I'm going to like a book. So definitely one to look for, especially if you're looking for romantasy reads. She reads a lot of contemporary romance too. So if you guys like contemporary romances, then I would say check her channel out. I also have to shout out Reagan at Peruse Project. This is a longtime booktube favorite of mine. And again, reads across the board. So I get recommendations from her, or more so anti-recommendations from her, because our reading tastes are not the same. And so I kind of know if she likes the book, there's a good chance I won't like a book. But still, I think that anti-recommendations are just as good as recommendations, because if you can knock books off of my TBR, I'm thankful, because have you seen my floor? I have books stacked in my floor of my library. I don't need more recommendations. And I do think that as far as historical fiction, though, she gives really good recommendations for historical fiction, and I read across the board. Do I need to say it again? There are things that she's going to talk about that I'm not going to hear from anybody else. So there is another reason to follow Reagan other than anti-recommendations for me. I need historical fiction recommendations as well. So yeah. And last but certainly not least, I have to shout out Jessie, the bookish mom. Her energy in every video makes me jealous. She is so high energy and always smiling. And we do have very similar reading tastes, very similar reading tastes. I do think that both of us are like, we are very willing to be open to young adults, and we read young adult. We don't see the problem with young adults. We understand it's written for a younger audience, and we are not that target audience. But there are still things that you can appreciate about young adult novels, even if you're not a young adult. And I love that about her. Very open and honest with her reviews, very open about what she likes and doesn't like. And I think our fantasy tastes kind of align. But there are certain things that I don't like that I know she does. And I think that lends to her being just a little bit more lenient on things than me, and writing style being one of those. We all know where this is going and who I'm talking about, so I don't need to say it, but I love her channel. All right, that is 15 booktubers that I think you guys should check out, because I'm always watching them, so you guys should be watching them too. That's it for me today. Like, subscribe if you would like, and I have all of my links in a Linktree link down below if you want to connect with me in any other way. Bye!